folks, you're very welcome to another episode of the Minor Service here on John's Garage. This is the place where we jump into the history of a recently featured model on John's Garage. This time, for the anoraks amongst us, we're going to take a more in-depth look at the Bmw E34 model which featured last week. So let's jump right in and get started. So the Bmw E34 began rolling down the production lines in November 1987, with the first models being delivered to customers early in 1988. The 535i Saloon was the first model variant to be produced, sold and delivered to customers, with production of other models and variants following soon after, such as the 520i and 530i in January 1988. The 525i in February 1988 also. The much loved and still stylish in my eyes touring version only entered production in November 1990, but was a brilliant addition to the range. Initial advertising and marketing material focused on showing the model as a premium driver's car, which was aimed at fashionable young middle class people with a well-paid job, or as everybody else called them back in the 80s, yuppies. The Bmw E34 was a hugely successful model for BMW, and in its total production run across 8 years, over 1.3 million examples were produced until the final touring models were produced in June 1996. Saloon production had ended in December 1995. Speaking of production, this took place on two sites, one in the BMW factory in, I'll have to take my time pronouncing this, Dingelfling in Germany, and the second in Roslin, South Africa. Apologies if I got that pronunciation wrong. The original design is credited to Ray Spada, who penned it in 1982 under the guidance of Klaus Luth, before leaving BMW for IDEA in 1983, where he competed with fellow designer Giorgetto Guigaro to win design contracts from Fiat all through the 80s and 90s. During the design and finalization of it into a production model, special attention was paid to aerodynamics, as was the rigor during the 1980s car design. This helped it achieve a drag coefficient of 0.3. This ensured the model had good handling, fuel economy, and was refined at speed. The models came with a huge range of engines across the entire production run, from an inline 4-cylinder petrol to a thumping 3.8-litre inline 6-cylinder as seen in the M5. Many specials were also produced, including the Alpina B10 range, which was also offered with a 4.6-litre V8, the first time a V8 was offered in the 5 Series range of cars. In Ireland and much of Europe, the base model E34 was the 518i, which produced 111 horsepower from its 4-cylinder engine. You didn't get a 6-cylinder unless you opted for the 520i or above, and again, power output was modest at 127 brake horsepower, but sporting packs and options could at least give the illusion of sporting pretensions. Nonetheless, the car was solidly built and comfortable to drive. Back then, you really knew you were driving a premium brand car, and so did everyone else, with the distinctive and smartly styled exterior, and also the feeling of solidity and build quality on the interior. Also worth noting that when the BMW E34 was first launched, it was available with technological advancements which made it stand out from other brands. For example, it came with ABS brakes, airbags, and even lenticular headlights. Now, I had to look that particular last one up to find out what it was. And it's when each headlight is fitted with a lens to stop light scattering and to give you a more focused beam. Conventional headlights at the time had parabolic reflectors, which were much less effective, and I'm going to let you go and look up what parabolic reflectors was if you don't know, okay? Another important first for BMW at the time was the offering of a touring model, or estate model as most other people called it, in its class. All other models also came with 4-wheel drive, and these were noted by the IX symbol at the end of the model number. So 525IX would indicate it was a 4-wheel drive model. There were also a couple of other firsts. For example, a 6-speed gearbox was offered late in the model's production run. Stability control, traction control, and also, as I previously mentioned, a V8 engine. This model at the time was groundbreaking for BMW. These features are now commonplace, but less so back in 1988 when it was first delivered to customers. BMW also offered the E34 with 2 diesel engines during its production run, but being honest, neither endowed themselves with a reputation for reliability, running costs or refinement, which is in stark contrast to the diesel engines which were offered in later models such as the E39 530D. Fortunately, the petrol engines, especially the 6-cylinder models of all sizes, proved themselves worthy of a solid reputation for durability, with a reputation that they could often cover 200,000 or 300,000 miles with only basic maintenance and servicing. Now, that wasn't so with the 4-cylinders, which endowed themselves with cooling system issues and could suffer from head gasket failure if not maintained properly. And finally, there's one version of the E34 worth mentioning in its own right, and that's the M5. This was first offered to customers in late 1988 in all markets as a saloon, but only as a touring and left-hand drive markets. It came with an inline 6-cylinder 3.6 litre engine, pushing out 311 horsepower, and from 1992 it was made available with 335 from its 3.8 litre engine. On launch, it had a 0 to 60 time of 6.3 seconds and a top speed limited to 155 miles per hour. With later upgrades to the engine, the 0 to 60 time was cut to 5.9 seconds. These were blistering figures for a premium family saloon at the time. They also earned it a starring role in the 1998 film Ronin, where it was optimistically pursued by an absolutely terrified Robert De Niro, who was driving a V6 front-wheel drive Peugeot 406. Not entirely sure that was the best match or pursuit car that a film could have made, but anyway, it kept up with the M5 miraculously. So, 25 years after production, where does the legacy of the BMW E34 lie now? Despite the fact that it was a hugely successful model for BMW with many firsts, it's been overshadowed in people's minds by the shark-nosed E28 5 Series which came before it, and by the E39 which came after it, which is a firm favourite in its own right. However, I firmly believe that this is changing now as buyers awaken up to the value for money these models represent. Values of the E34 M5 are already rocketing, with many of the hugely capable and sporting variants now as rare as hen's teeth and really unavailable. For example, the 535i Sport models, for mint examples, they're rarer than an M5, but they're starting to go up now and to be seen in their own right as a really, really precious and valuable classic model of the future. My advice, find the best example if you're interested in buying an E34 of a 6-cylinder model, and you can enjoy a capable, sporty and well-built car now while you can. So thank you all very much for joining us in this. Thanks again to the owner of the 535i Sport who allowed me to film it, and Happy New Year to all I need to wish all is a Happy New Year, Happy Christmas, and I'll see you all safe and sound hopefully in the new year. Thank you all very much. Bye bye.